Hi and welcome to Cardboard Magic. In the video you're about to watch, I am recreating the head of the T-Rex from the Jurassic Park movie. This is 2 months of work which I have condensed into 2 short videos. I hope you enjoy watching this video, so let's get started. To start with, I have to create the dorsal. This will be the top of the head, and the shape that I cut of the top of the head will create the basis for the whole head. The shape of the whole T-Rex head will be developed and progressed around this basic shape. The front part of the dorsal needs to be curved down, also it needs to be curved from the sides. In order to do that, I need to cut some triangular snippets to form the side curves. This will form a rounded shape at the front. If you look at any pictures of the T-Rex from the Jurassic Park movie, you will notice at the top of his head, at the front where the nostrils are, there is an organic bump. This organic bump is where the nostrils protrude from, and so this part of the structure is what I'm trying to create here. And to save time, I'm going to be calling this the nose bump. The shape of the nostrils is one of the most prominent features of the whole T-Rex head, and in aesthetics will go a long way to forming the actual look of the face, so this one I have to get right. Because this is quite a large hollow model, almost 1.5 feet long, and there's going to be a lot of shaping, squeezing, gluing, all sorts of things, the structure will have to withstand a lot of pressure while working on it. And so for that reason, I'm creating a support on the inside to help stabilize it more while working on it. As the head shape develops, I'm looking back and working by eye to see what the final result will be. In this case, unfortunately, the nose bump didn't quite work, and so I've had to take it off and start again. Now this is one of so many mistakes that I make as I go along, spending several hours creating a shape and then finding that it doesn't work and having to rip it up and start it all over again. And for the sake of you not having to watch my mistakes, several hours of mistakes and repetitions that I have made have been discarded so that you will not have to watch. After looking at a lot of pictures of the T-Rex nose bump, what I realized was that there are little ridges along the top of the nose bump. So when I recreate the nose bump this time, what I'm doing is slicing some ridges so that along the top line of the nose bump, I can create some more mini bumps. This time I'm creating more supports at the back of the head. This is because the head is so large, and with all the pushing and the squeezing, I need the structure to hold its shape while I'm working on it. So as I said again, I am creating some more supports at the back of the head. And now it's time to create the side of the face. And to make things easier, I'm going to call this section the upper cheeks. To help get the shape that I need, I will be using the outer line of the top of the head to create the basic shape that I need. Now that I've created the basic shape of the top half of the head, I can use the top half as a visual guide to help me create the basic size and the shape of the lower jaw. After shaping the top half of the head and the lower jaw together, just to get an idea of how the whole head looks, I've come to the realization that the shape isn't quite right. At the front end of the top half, where the top lip should be, I can see the proportions aren't quite right. So what I'm going to be doing is adding an extra section of cardboard just to get the proportion and the shape of the top half right. As the shape of the head develops, I'm standing back and taking a look at what the outcome will be, just to give me an idea of what mistakes I'm making and what I can correct. And in this instance, I'm looking at the nose bump again, and I'm not liking what I see. The nose bump should be longer. And so rather than ripping it off again and restarting it, what I'm going to do is just keep it where it is and extend it. And I'll be doing this by adding an extra section at the back end. So what I'll do first is make a template using paper. This will make it a lot easier for me than making it out of cardboard straight away. Here I'm using an old trick to cover up the cracks. I tear the top layer away from a piece of old cardboard, and I use that thin piece of paper to cover up any cracks or joins that are obvious. Now I need to extend the eyebrow ridge on both sides. This is fairly important because the eye sockets need to be inset, and the shape of the eyebrow ridge is very important, that it adds that extra edge of menace to the whole look of the T-Rex face. So here I'm creating a ridge along the lip line, which I will do both top and bottom. This will eventually be covered in scales, so it will not be seen. But it's very important to create this platform because this is where the teeth will be resting on. And so now I'm creating the top part of the neck, which will be connected to the back of the head. This is not something that I originally planned to do, but I feel it's necessary because it will give more structure to the shape of the head. Creating the eye sockets was not easy. Getting the basic shape was very difficult and took many attempts. This was mainly because the eye sockets had to be inset, and as I said before, for the sake of not boring you, I decided not to include all those attempts in this video. So this is the lower neck, and at this point I've not exactly figured out how it will be connected to the top part of the neck, but that is something I'll figure out as I go along, which is usually how I work anyway. I'm not really happy how the top half of the neck looks at the moment, so what I'm doing is creating an arch to make the neck look a bit more believable. I'm doing this by creating folds and creating an arch shape. Here I'm creating some scales along the side of the nose bump. Now This in theory was supposed to be one of the easiest parts of the whole build, but in actual fact it was one of the most tedious, repetitive tasks that I had to perform, and I just couldn't get it right. It took me 3 or 4 attempts to get the right look, the look that I actually wanted, and it was the most boring, timely task you can imagine. In actual fact, this part of the process took me 2 or 3 days to do, and emotionally it took years off my life. And so we come to the end of part 1 of my T-Rex build. I'm hoping you've enjoyed watching this so far. Part 2 is a slightly shorter video, and you'll find the link to that below. And if you like what you've seen so far, I would appreciate it so much if you subscribed. It would really help me out. Thank you, and I'll see you in part 2.